place for you, and if I go to prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there you may be also. When that is cited, usually we're at a funeral and we're in a very depressed state. But that's not a passage that Jesus left with us to cause us discomfort. It is a passage that helps us to understand that if we do what we have been assigned to do, we have already been stored up a place where we can go and be at peace with God. A place where we can sit around the throne of God and sing praises and say thank you for the tabernacle that we had in the Spirit. We ought to be looking forward to that. If God has raised Jesus from the dead to go back and prepare that place, he will also raise you and I from whatever our circumstances might be, so that we might be able to handle the dread and the grime and the glimmer of life in a way that is pleasing and acceptable unto him. Y'all all right this morning? Y'all can be turning to Genesis chapter 50 after my throat clears up. I need some Kool-Aid. Purple. I'll be fine in a minute. You just have to put up with me. First of all, we want to ask our young people if they have done their assignment. I gave you an assignment to go home and to look at Proverbs 7, verses 18 and following, and to extract from there what we talked about on Sunday. By show of hands, how many of you young people? I didn't ask the old folks. I knew they were going to be hard-headed. How many of you young people did what I asked you to do? Negative. It will not. Just the two of you. Okay. All right, good. There's a reason that I asked what I asked. And if you haven't noticed, we have been in Genesis chapter 50, verse 20, for 9 weeks. One verse. One verse. We got one more week to go, and we're not going from Genesis 50 and verse number 20. Because for 9 weeks I have been asking the older folks to read certain chapters from Genesis leading up to 50. And of course I knew they weren't going to do that either. Save me again. See, one thing I taught them this morning, Bernita, there's a difference in discipline and punishment. Discipline is when a lesson is being taught and you have an opportunity to either receive the lesson or to reject it. That's called discipline. On the other hand, when you have learned the lesson and then you just downright refuse to do it, that's when punishment comes. Y'all can say amen if you like. Jesus said, he that hears these sayings of mine and doeth them is likened unto a wise man who builds his house on a sure foundation. And he turns around and later he says, yeah, he that hears these sayings of mine and doeth them not is likened unto what's that word? A fool. Amen. And we don't like to be called names, do we? Well, our children are looking to us for us to keep them from being foolish. But the lesson that we're learning, say amen if you can. Amen. The lesson that we're teaching them is how to live foolishly. But that's not what we're going to talk about this morning. I didn't come here for that. The peace of detours. Say detours. How many of you know by now what a detour is? Some of us learned the lesson, some of us didn't. Terry, because this morning one of our brethren, and he so diligently does this for me. He gives me something to fight with. And he said this morning that he had a blown tire on his truck, and it put him on the side of the road for several hours. And I looked at him and I said, well, you know what that was? You know what he didn't say? Amen. So I've got some more work to do with him, don't I? See, he didn't say detours. He had a destiny that he was going to. And before he could reach his destiny, God decided to stop him. Because evidently there was something he was doing that he had not learned yet. And so God wouldn't let him get to his final destination until he got his attention. Y'all say amen if you can. Well, there are some things that we need to know about life that God has done to help us. And they're there to discipline us and to turn us into disciples. Because what happens with disciples is when it is lodged into your inner parts and something comes up, the only thing you can think about is what's in your head. You can't think about anything else. I don't care what you do, Monica. I don't care if the devil sends you a tornado in front of all of this stuff that you're doing. The only thing a disciple will think about is what's in their head. And so this morning we're going to talk about the peace of detours. And we're going to do it from Genesis chapter 50. Because there are some freedoms that God has freed you and I from in order to grant us some things. And I'm going to tell you what they are. There are 4 things, just like they were last week. And y'all wrote this down, didn't go check it out. So y'all don't check this out. Just keep on the path you're on. That's called sarcasm. Just in case y'all missed it. There is the freedom of being able to speak and to express oneself. God gives us the freedom to speak and to engage in conversation. Your Bill of Rights and your constitutional document didn't give you that freedom. Even though it's written there, you still don't have it on that document. Say amen if you can. You couldn't talk for a long time. And you better not talk too loud now, Willis. They'll shut you down in a heartbeat one day. Saltines. You know, they'll do that to you. Then there's the freedom. There's the freedom to worship our Creator without any outside interference. God gave us the privilege to connect with Him without other people getting in our way. The third freedom is He gives us the freedom from want. From want. He gives us an economic understanding that secures a healthy lifestyle. And so I don't walk around in life talking about what I want. Because everything that I want, I've already got. I just don't recognize it, but I got it. Prosperity, I've always had. So I don't need a prosperity preacher. I need somebody that's going to save my soul. Help me with somebody. He gives us the freedom from fear. None of us, nobody should be in an environment where you are surrounded by acts of aggression that cause you to be uncomfortable. And that's why it's so important to raise our children right, because if we don't raise our children right, they'll be in that exact circumstance, and they'll be around gangs, and they'll be around people who don't have their best in their heart. And they'll have to live with aggression and therefore not be able to experience the best that God has to offer. Those are the 4 things that God gives us as human beings to be free. We can talk to one another. We don't have to want from stuff. We don't have to fear stuff. We have these freedoms and nobody can take them from us. But what Joseph's brothers tried to do was take those very freedoms from him when they put him in that pit. Our world has become so removed from what I'm talking about. Some of you all are looking in your eyes and you are so confused you don't know how to handle this. Because you don't know how free that you really are. You don't have to put up with nothing that Satan puts in front of you. You are not a victim. You're not a vulture for him to eat upon. God freed you from the grasp of Satan, translated you into the kingdom of the Son of His love, and now you are free from this ever elusive thing that you're seeking to be at peace. And we're going to talk about it. Y'all all right? I need somebody to get the man prayed for somebody to get an understanding. Y'all need to get an understanding this morning, because you got one more shot at God in Genesis 50. Peace will never be our dwelling place until peace finds its way in every heart of every person in this room. I need to say that again. Peace will not find its place if it doesn't start with guess who? with you and I. So I've got to change some attitudes that I have in order for me to be at peace. So that the dove of peace can find himself dwelling in the waters of my hatred and in the waters of my jealousy. I've been around people all my life who couldn't stand me just because I was handsome. But I'm at peace. I'm at peace because just because they don't know how to live, that does not mean that I've got to live like them. I have always been an oddball. I will die an oddball. Because I'm not in the ball and in the game to please y'all. I'm in the ball and in the game to please all. Genesis chapter 50, verse number 20. Y'all ready for this? The hallmark of Christianity. Genesis chapter 50 and verse number 20. They're looking funny, so I better hurry up. I better hurry up. They're looking crazy. I want your mind to be right there. Oh, they told me, listen, bro, I had 1, 2, 3, I had 5 women yesterday. Now you know 1 is bad. 2 is almost unsurvivable. I had 5. Gail, Jackie, Vonda, Dre, and Benita. You gonna straighten the one up? I can't straighten mine out. And I must be honest, Mark, yours wasn't in it. They told me I had 20 minutes this morning. Yes. Because at 20 minutes, they say I start rattling. And I rattle from 21 to an hour. So, Vonda, you see what you left me with yesterday? So I'm going to try to, where Gail go? She hid. Yeah, she hid back there. She was the primary instigator. Who had that one? Yeah. Well, anyway, we'll try not to rattle. We'll see if you can get something out of this. Verse number 20 summarizes something beyond the power of God, and we need to get this. Verse number 20 has for us the transforming of our pain into purpose, and we don't see this. It has for us, it takes into account for us my present misery, and it turns that present misery of mine into a miracle. And I'm going to show you how that happens in a minute. But there is something there that I want you to get, and I want you to just read it. I want you to see it. And every time you see it, I want you to slow down just long enough for you to get it, because it's been there forever. Y'all ready? It says, as for you, you meant evil against me. But God meant it for good in order to bring about the present result to preserve many people. You have something in there that's called an order. And it shows up in everything that you and I do. We just don't know it. Now, if you can get this morning, you will discover for yourself the secret of facing all the challenges you have in life. You'll find out and become able to access the power of God in ways that you've never seen before. Now watch what he says. He says, you meant it for evil. Then there was God. Then came good. Y'all write that down. Write that down. Evil, God, good. Listen, evil, God, good. Joseph's brothers meant evil. Then God got in. Then good came out. Are y'all with me? When evil shows up, don't run. Don't run. When problems come, don't run. Because if God is in the equation, can't nothing come out but good. What Satan has to try to do is keep God out of the equation. And if you let him take God out of the equation, your evil remains evil. Satan can keep God from me. He has to keep evil in me. Y'all listen. But as soon as God gets in, evil gets out. Job found evil in his life. When he surrendered his life to God, God flipped it and made it good. When Jesus was around and people were hungry, Jesus brought God into the middle of that mess, and all of a sudden 5,000 people got some groceries. Lazarus was dead. They were mad with Jesus because he wouldn't come help them out. And he turned a dead man into a resurrected man. What I'm trying to get you to see is God has to play an integral part in our existence, because if he is only a visitor, when you get ready for him to show up and when you get ready for him to leave, your evil is going to stay. Amen. God wants to be your friend. He wants to be your partner in this relationship heading into heaven. He can't simply just be somebody at your dinner table where you say amen to at the evening meal. When you pray and you go to sleep, you can't pick God up and put him down like that. When most of y'all came in here this morning, all y'all did was check off a box when you got here. Say amen if you can. I'm saying lying to yourself. Say amen if you can. Don't expect for God to show up in your evil and turn it into good when you are treating him like a second-class citizen. He's got to be in the middle of the mess, and he's got to be in that mess all the time. Why? Because evil plus God equals good. And God has already told you that he wants your life to end up in good. He told you that before evil showed up. Say amen again. When he created me, he went further than he does with y'all because he said I was very good. So I've got something and some reason to hold on to God as my cause and concern in life, because I don't want evil to corrupt what's very good. Y'all getting this? And so every pit that me and Joseph have ever been in has always taken us to a new place. And the reason is because evil plus God equals good. He didn't become the second of command over Egypt because he was handsome like me. It was because he got a coat that he didn't ask for. When he got authority and ability to enable him to have grocery when a famine came, he didn't do that when the famine got there. God used every chance he got in Joseph's life to help him to become and to bring him to his destiny. And so success, for all of you that care about it, has nothing to do with what you have. It has to do with who you have. Amen. And I'm not dismissing education. I love it. I value it. I will be a student until the day I die. I am not devaluing preparation. I am not devaluing what you pursue in life. That's important to you. But what I'm telling you is, all those things ain't nothing separate and apart from God. Amen. They will not lead you to your destiny. Amen. So the majority of your time, Cam, need to be spent pursuing guess who? God. Because now you know that no matter what it is you undertake, he's got to be where? In the middle. You can just write it on your forehead, man on the middle. Just write it across there. Deidre, when you look at Ariel in the morning when he leaves, man in the middle. Because when he walks out the door, guess who's taking care of you? Man in the middle. Y'all say amen if you can. He's already 2 hours away from home. He can't shoot nothing if he needed to. Y'all don't get it. Y'all don't get it. Man in the middle. That's who takes care of you. You know, I asked him this morning. I think Adrian was the one I asked this morning. Who woke him up this morning? How did he get up this morning outside of his own strength? You know, most of us wake up in the morning, but the best we got for God is what you did. You don't recognize that God was holding you in suspension the whole time. Man in the middle. He ain't letting go. He ain't letting go. Not some. No. See, if you want to get to your destiny, you got to be fruitful, first of all, where you're at. Whatever that is. I don't care what it is. So you got to work faithfully. You got to serve willingly. You got to submit joyfully. And you got to honor God where you are now. Amen. If you will do that, God being the master connector that he is, he will start connecting the dots till you get to your destiny. Amen. Now let me tell y'all something. We're just like, you know, life is like a beach ball. You know, you get full with God. You know, you know, like I think it was Isaac that prayed. You know, y'all come to church and y'all want to get full with God. Well, you ain't gonna fool yourself. If you weren't full when you came, you ain't going to be full when you leave. You fill up a beach ball, and I don't care how deep you push that ball below the water, that ball will come back. And when it pops up from the water, it's going to pop up higher than it did before it went down. That's how life is. The more miserable things get for us, the more aggressive we should get to God. It's evident to me, and I told them this morning, they love pain. We don't want our lives to change. Because God has given us all of these truths around us, and we just don't recognize any of this stuff. It's easy to praise God when the sun is shining. You need to learn how to do it when it's dark outside. Jacob spent all night long wrestling with a crazy angel. And he refused to let go until, guess what? Until God gave him what he wanted. What we do is we get in the midst of some evil, and the first thing we do is leave the church. We take God out of the equation, and we expect for good to come from him. I got news for you. Don't leave here today. Because you're going to bump your head. No, that's not how it works. 13 years from the time that they sold this boy before he stood before Pharaoh. 22 years before he reconnected with those same boys that had done him wrong. It takes time for God to bring peace from chaos. 40 years, Moses is taking Israel from Egypt. 120 years, Noah realized the promise of God when the floods came. It took Jesus, it took God himself 30 years to start preaching. It takes time. Detours take time. And so when James was sitting on the side of the road for those couple of hours, instead of him talking on the CB, he should have been trying to get closer to God. Say amen, James. Because we know that's what he was doing, right? Okay, good. As long as we know. Developing people takes time. And destiny is worth taking the time. Nothing good in life comes easy. It takes time. I call myself a basketball player. I probably wasn't as good as Will as think he is, but it took me time to develop those skills. And the walkway that fell down in Miami, just in case y'all do watch the news, if you haven't been paying attention to the news, there was this big concrete column in front of the TV every time they showed the walkway. But what y'all didn't see was right behind there, Jane Hall, there was a park. That's where I used to make my money at without the bad skills I had. Yeah, y'all ain't hear me. Right across from Miami-Dade Community College is where I used to be on. Y'all don't gamble. Amen. I know. Amen. I know all y'all godly. But in my 20s, I was getting that money. Well, God has a way to deal with a fool. Yeah, I'm glad it ain't now, because that building would have fell on me. But anyway, some of us treat God as if he's a microwave. And God is more like a crock pot. What God does when he gets a hold of us, he wants to see us bubble a little bit. He wants to see us sit and simmer and stew for a while, because God is trying to get to transformation. He's trying to see some changes so that he can take what's evil in me and turn it into good. See, and you can know. Helen gave me some pie this morning too. See, that's why in the company of 2 or 3 witnesses, all things can be established. I'm going to be gentle when I do this. How do you know when God is working on you? It's when the evil comes out of you. Would you say that there was evil that came out this morning? Yeah, don't be scared. Not her. So she still got the devil in her. Okay, good. He said it, not me. You blame him. Don't blame me. I'm trying to help you out. He want to walk you down there. See, every time it looks like you're going down the wrong path and you can bounce back, You know God is there with you. You ever see somebody always going through something time and time and time again? They're going through something. Every time you look around, time and time again, they come back. That's the person you need to take note of. Amen. The person that never changes, don't worry about them. Look at the one who God deals with. Because that's the one he can show you change. That's the one he can show you how his hand is working on their destiny. A person who has faith firmly rooted in God, you know them from anybody else. A person who knows when evil is present and that God is working all around, you know them. Y'all listen. When I was a boy in Baltimore, and some of y'all are old enough to remember this, there was this bozo-looking plastic thing. It's called a punching bag. It was a bozo punching bag. And I used to love that thing. Because, boy, I was a little skinny joker. They couldn't fight back. But you hit that thing. And I mean, no matter how hard you hit it, it kept bouncing back. Boom! Hit the floor. It come on back. As a child, you don't ask yourself why these things happen. And God let me see that because he knew I was going to be an old fool one day. And he needed to teach me a truth. The reason that happened is because the weight on the bottom is heavier than the air on the top. And no matter what I did, down low did not determine where it wound up. And that's why I laugh at y'all when y'all laugh at me. It don't matter what's up high. What matters is what's down low. And we don't know what the next few days are going to hold for any of us. We just know that God is control of everything. But somewhere along the way, Satan and circumstance are going to catch up to you. And you are going to be tried and you're going to be troubled by everything that he's trying to mow you down with. That's just how life is. You are not special. I am not special. The things that have happened to me in my life, God did not single me out for that. That's just part of life. And what God is doing is trying to see if I'm resting in the right foundation. Because if I'm resting in the right foundation, Adrian, I'll be back. If I'm rooted in the right foundation, Adrian, I'll be back. Amen. If I am tied to the solid weight of a holy God, I will stand upright. Nothing, Paul says, can stop me from the love of God. I will be just fine because God is my counterweight. But what I had to realize was Satan ain't going to quit just because God is my counterweight. So every time I get angry, God is looking to see if I'm going to turn my back on him, if I'm going to turn my back on the church, because he wants to know if the evil is still there. Y'all ain't following God. Y'all get mad with me because you ain't got no sense. I don't mind. What God is trying to do for you that you can't see is whether or not there's still evil in you. Amen. When you miss being where God is on Sunday because you have decided to do something that is more valuable than you, don't get mad with me. God is just trying to show you that evil is still ever present with you. When you're teaching your children that God is secondary to life, he's just exposing the evil. Satan is at work in you, trying to keep you from guess who? From God. And trust me, you can't find peace that way. Amen. You can't find peace that way. God sent Jesus to be your peace. Yeah. Ain't y'all lucky that when we were talking yesterday? God sent Jesus to be your peace. This boy is now in a position that the same evil that they used against him is what he's going to use now to recreate them. That's why Helen Beach don't understand what heal, help, and restore means. Because what she's looking at is something physical when God has just shown her something spiritual. It's not there to appease your eyeballs. It's not there to coordinate. That's not why it's there. It's there because God decided he needed to deliver a message that most of you would not get. And it's because there's something in us that's blocking what God is trying to remove. We cannot be restored to that position that God created in us where he said we were good when we don't have sense enough to ask for his help. Y'all can say amen again. And you can't ask for his help if ain't nothing wrong with you. There was a point in my life. I knew I was foul. I wasn't like you. I had come clean. I did. That's why it doesn't matter now. Because if God decided right now, Melissa, to take me home, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. And if he pronounced me to hell, guess what? I'm ready for that too. Because here's what I realized. I realized that the good comes about when God gets rid of the evil. And if I don't want to go to hell, I can't do this in reverse. The evil has got to go. And God's the only one can get rid of it. I can't get rid of it. I tried and tried and tried. I tried from patches to cold turkey. It don't work. I tried a shot glass to no glass. It don't work. God's got to be in the middle. Amen. The only thing that can get rid of evil is God. And the only thing that can produce good is God. The only way that peace came to my life was not when Jackie met me. Say amen again. You got to be scared. She was a benefit to peace. Because if peace had not shown up, I would have never, guess what? Met her. Y'all didn't get that. Amen. See, some of y'all still in the club, so you don't understand me. I get it. I get it. I'm in the beta club too. Yeah. See, peace. If I had not found peace, I would have never received her. And I'm not raising her up above God. I'll just tell you how God works. Because some things that are meant for evil, like fornication, somebody help me. God takes when he's in the middle and he turns it into good. And now she got a story she tells folk when we first met about me running around the hotel. You hear me? I ain't rapping. I'm telling the story like it was intended. See, now she has a story that she tells. But the story that she doesn't tell is the story about peace. She tells the story about the evil, but not the peace. And had Jesus not entered into, or re-entered, in my case, my life, I never took the first run. Y'all ain't hear me. Amen. See, the key to peace is Christ. In John chapter 8, you'll find it. Jesus said, the peace that I leave is not of this world. It's much bigger. It's higher than the world. See, I can put up with things now. Last week I started to cuss the contract out, didn't I? Thank God for peace. God, he wearing on my patience. He ain't worried on my peace. He wearing on my patience now. He giving my last name. See, you need that balance. You need Jesus to balance you out. Because if you don't, good will, or evil will stay there. When you need good to prevail. When I go to Melissa for a job, I don't need Melissa to see my ugliness. I need her to see my goodness. Otherwise, I can't get a job. You don't get rewarded for evil. You get punished for evil. You get rewarded for good. I hope everybody took that the right way. Because all God wants from us is what, Joe? A contrite heart and a what? That's contrite. You tried to change my word, Joe. Joe said he wanted broken. I know what that means, Joe. Yeah, God, all that stuff we want to give God, he don't want that. He don't want that. He wants a spirit that he can work with. He don't want your goody-goody. No. He wants something you can work with. You got to trust God. You got to trust God by faith because you've never seen God. See, one of the mistakes they made in Colossae when they were trying to worship God was they were trying to worship God through means. You can't connect with God through your eyes. God is a spirit. They that connect to God, they've got to connect to God by spirit and by the truth. And sometimes the truth really is hard to find. And sometimes the truth really, really, really is painful. But that's God's process of getting rid of evil and bringing about good. And so we've got to find it if we want peace. Have faith in Jesus Christ. Let him for dying for you. Know that it should have been you and not to die on that tree. Understanding this, I don't care what happens to you in life. There's nothing that can happen to you in life that can even come close to a man hanging on a tree with spikes in his hand. And people doing the violent, vicious things that they did to him. None of us have experienced that. And so all of us have a hope different. All of us have a hope different. We got to have faith in Christ. We got to know that God let him go into the ground and that he raised him from the dead. And God raised him from the dead, that also means that I don't have to stay in that dead space. Not only in the eternities, but even now. I do not have to live beneath my privilege now. God can raise me above that. But I've got to have faith and trust in God that he'll do that. I've got to have it. And you can't get it. You can't get it without being born into his spiritual family. There's a lot of things going on a lot of different ways in the world of religion that people are saying, and I can assure you this, they can't find any of it where it comes from. So if I say something, I can prove it. If I tell you something, I can go show it to you. But I'm not going to tell you something that's not going to get you where you need to go. Your destiny is eternity. And the only way to get there, Jesus said, I am the door. I am the door. I am the door. I am the door. We ain't in there. We're in there. Jesus says, I am the door. And he says, I stand at the door, and if you will open the door and let me in, I will come in and dine with you and you with me. And later on, he says, nobody will be able to snatch you out of my hands. You got to be born again. You got to be born by the water and by the Spirit. We call it baptism. Jesus said, he that believes and is baptized shall be saved. He that believes not shall be condemned. So it starts with faith. Baptism ends with faith. Jesus said, if you speak faith unto death, I will give you a crown of righteousness that not anybody can snatch from you. If you're here this morning and your life is filled with stuff that you don't understand, learn how to talk to God. Learn how to talk to God. You don't need the church to talk to him. Y'all do know that, don't you? You don't have to wait till Sunday and Wednesday. Talk to him. Connect to him. Tell him where you're hurting at. His job, Jesus' job now, is to heal your hurts. Everybody know what the gospel is? You know, it's not the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Y'all do know that now, don't you? That's how he did it. But part of the gospel is bandaging up the wounds of the brokenhearted. That's his job now. He's sitting there waiting for somebody to be restored while we together stand, while we sit down.